Yeah.
Here we are.
That's right.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the April 19th, 2017 meeting of the Gaithersburg Planning Commission. First up is the approval of our minutes from April 5th, 2017. Is there a motion, please?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the minutes of April 5th, 2017 as read into the record.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously. I want to look, I noticed that the clock is ahead of 7:30. Are we in fact on? I see it on the monitor.
I assume we're on.
Okay, and we got no cue from the,
Nothing.
from,
Right.
from the audiovisual guys. So we're okay?
You're at 7:30.
At 7.
Okay, great. All right. First up tonight is the sign permit agenda, and there's one which is sign-13702-2017, Symmetry Salon Studios at 572 North Frederick Avenue, the CD Corridor Development Zone. This is a sign adjustment and icon sign approval, and presenting from staff is Chris Berger. Good evening, Chris.
Good evening, Commissioners. The subject property is the Symmetry Salon Studios in the Gaithersburg Square Shopping Center at 572 North Frederick Avenue. The property is Zone CD Corridor Development. The sign permit application comes before the Planning Commission in accordance with Section 24-212J, which requires the Commission to approve icons on signage. The applicant also seeks a sign adjustment from the Commission for the size of the building sign pursuant to Section 24-212C. The applicant proposes a 315 square foot building sign measuring 21 feet tall and 15 feet wide. The lettering at the bottom that reads Salon Studios will be made of 1-inch thick channel letters. The script that reads Symmetry will consist of a 3/4 inch clear acrylic digital print. It will be backlit by LEDs. The vinyl flower petal icon will be located at the top of the sign. The signage is proposed to be located on the largest of the 3 Trespa panels, which were installed to conceal the exterior ductwork. The panels and the other exterior improvements were approved as part of a staff approval, with the condition that the applicant submit a sign permit application for the building sign. The applicant requests a larger sign so customers can more easily find the salon once they enter Gaithersburg Square from Perry Parkway. The applicant fears the business would be difficult to locate should a smaller sign be installed on the building. The applicant added that he consulted with multiple signage companies to determine an appropriate size sign for the facade. Director of Engineering Services Ali Mumpauer reviewed the sign and concluded that it would not interfere with motorist visibility or have any effect on traffic movement. The facade holding the sign measures 3,565 square feet, so the sign would cover 8.8% of the facade, less than a 10% limit. In conclusion, staff supports an adjustment for the sign, given the need for wayfinding assistance in the rear of the shopping center, size of the facade holding the sign, size of the panel holding the sign, lack of residential properties nearby, and the improved aesthetics the project brings to the location. Staff also supports approval of the flower petal icon. Are there any questions?
Good.
Yeah, basic question. When we give a waiver for a sign like this size, and it's because it's not visible, at some point, let's say in the next 10, 20 years, something happens with the Gaithersburg Fairgrounds, and there's a mixed-use development that goes in. Does that sign then conform, or is that sign given a waiver in perpetuity, or is there a reevaluation of the sign to fit the code?
If someone else were to move into the tenant space, we would reevaluate the signage for that location. Someone else couldn't replace it with another 315 square foot sign without Planning Commission approval.
But my question refers directly to this particular client. In other words, let's say in 5 years he's still there or she's still there, and there's a redevelopment going on. That sign then becomes quite large, let's say, depending on how the road system works out, things like that.
That's correct.
Do we
yes.
then reevaluate that particular sign, or is that sign then for that particular tenant in perpetuity as long as that tenant is there?
Yeah, it's as long as the tenant is there.
Okay.
That's a fair question.
Yeah, it is.
Any other questions?
That's a big sign.
It's available.
That's a big sign. I'm having a little heartburn.
Well,
The size
let's
of
get
it.
through questions,
Okay.
and if there's anybody in the
Okay.
audience that wanted to comment on this application, is there? Nope. Okay.
Okay.
So, the recommendation is, Chris?
The recommendation, staff recommends that the planning commission, based on the exhibit submitted in the staff report, findings and recommendation, grant sign 13702-2017, Symmetry Salon Studio sign, finding it to be in compliance with section 24-212 of the city code.
Okay, great. So here's how I wanted to at least start the discussion. If you would put up one of the elevations again, please, of the proposed, or this one. In the calculation, there's like a orange box around it.
It's up, we're waiting
Yeah.
for the screen to come up on the,
Okay.
thank you.
Thanks. So, just kind of playing devil, just for sake of argument, if the green panel that backdrops the word symmetry, and it was, say, cut in, I'll make up a dimension, 3 feet high, and then there was another panel above it that was green with an icon on it, the symmetry sign itself would probably conform to the overall area. Is that
Yeah,
a fair
right.
assumption?
That's true.
Yeah, and so, as an actual sign, take away the decorative part, the icon, whatever that is. There's also 2 panels that are green, sort of facade treatments next to it, right, that are not in the calculation at all.
Correct,
So it's a little
yes.
bit of a game about which of this is graphic and which of it is just a finished
Mhm.
panel, right?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. And to, to their credit, it's a gesture of doing something to rejuvenate the facade a little bit. The other thing too is this is the only business that fronts the back parking lot on the shopping center, right? They're sort of
That is correct.
as I recall. There's been a couple businesses in there over the years that have kind of suffered through that orientation. Okay, so again, theoretically, if that icon were a separate panel, or it was a decorative panel with some kind of patterning on it, it wasn't even really an icon for the business, that wouldn't necessarily be an icon sign at that point, right? It would just be a
No.
decorative architectural element?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's what I was sort of, it's making it hard right now to kind of separate the two things.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and actually, I'm looking at Exhibit 4 with the sort of rendered rear elevation, which talks about the sort of flower graphic being an applied vinyl logo and the sign by others. It looks like at one point somebody was intending, at least based on that graphic, to do the icon piece of it as part of a building graphics package, and then have the
Mhm.
sign be by others.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, that plan changed,
Yeah.
which is the only reason we're talking about it.
What is the status of the sign right now?
I do not believe it has been made. I advise the applicant not to have it constructed until after approval.
Because I do think that, and it's a subtle difference, I do think all of it together as one big panel reads as too big a sign for a
Yep.
business
Yeah.
like this. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it does set sort of a bad pattern for
Yeah.
what we want to approve on streetscaping.
Right.
If this were representing the brand of the whole shopping center, and it was sort of a banner kind of thing, I think that would be a different discussion. But for a single tenant to get that much real estate for their logo, I think is not something I want to see happen on local shopping centers. On the other hand, I do think it's appropriate to do something with the facade that animates it a bit and is, a little more playful with materials to do something with the back of the building. So, any other thoughts?
Can I ask, and you may or may not know, is the graphic element of the sign something that's inherent to the business's branding, or was this something that was just, let's find something pretty to fill up the sign? Is it part of the brand?
According to the applicant, they have, I believe, 3 other locations in the area, and they do use that
Okay.
logo throughout the other businesses.
Can I ask?
Sure.
Did they consider a standalone sign along Perry Parkway?
That is not something that they have
There-
broached to me.
There's already a freestanding sign out there that the shopping center has, so I'm assuming that they would,
But I think it's farther up. I can see it in the map. It's just by the circle on the
Right.
south.
and has a list of tenants that's in the back, that's been in the back. And I thought there was one at the actual
The cut.
My
curb
point
cut
being-
into that area in the back.
Yeah, my point being that within the frontage that you have in Perry Parkway, you could potentially find a location that has a standalone sign
Well,
that
we
will.
only allow one
Okay.
sign, so.
Well, I'm just concerned that this is three times larger than than our maximum allowable.
If we're considering this large amount of exception, wouldn't we consider giving them a little exception sign, additional sign for the business because it's in the rear?
I think another issue for the location off Perry Parkway is there's existing trees there.
Mhm.
And so if you were to put a sign on the property line based on if these boundaries are correct, then you would have to remove trees as well.
I have a recommendation. I mean, is the applicant here?
No, they're not.
Okay. Why not?
Uh,
Did we know that coming in, or?
Yeah, I knew that they weren't going to be able to make it.
Okay. Respecting the need to get a little bit more exposure on the back of this building, I have a proposal that, and I don't know how we can do this now without the applicant here to discuss it, but it would run along the lines of let them or encourage them to have the sign for their business at whatever size it needs to be, the maximum that's allowable back there for the actual symmetry branding of the sign. And then have a discussion about doing those panels in a way that are decorative and removing any reference to the icon or any reference to the branding, but still encourage and in fact, push as hard as we can to get a good refresh to the facade back there like they're proposing. So that it doesn't become a sign issue, it's an architectural issue. That's my proposal.
Have the panels themselves been constructed, the green panels, where? 'Cause
I believe
there's
they
two
have.
separate projects, right?
Yeah, because they were approved, I think in January, and they have an occupancy, it's not been finalized. So I think all work on the exterior has been done, just the sign is the last step.
Including the big icon
Right,
graphic.
right.
Well, just that one. They may have the other two green panels up.
Okay.
I would add also that if they added another vinyl image, let's say, abstract or an icon,
Mhm.
we would maybe consider that a sign as well, because it is still intended to be attention grabbing. So we
My
may
only-
still be back from the commission if they added, let's say, an image on the other two blank signs and
Mhm.
removed from this one, if that's where you're going.
There's a line there to be drawn where it's either a pattern or it's an icon. All right, I mean, I think, if it's gonna be a direct quote of what their
Right.
icon, their logo, whatever that is, that's clearly an icon, and we have to approve it like a sign. If it's a really nicely done patterning that happens to go with this green panel system, I think that's something that's just architectural and kind of fun and different, and, you guys can judge it on that, and off we go. But I'm not comfortable approving this whole composition of a very, very large icon. I think both out of proportion with the business and out of line with what the center signage is sort of normally. I think there's some room because of the rear exposure to let them increase it somewhat, but I don't know what that right answer is.
I guess I would almost come down to, I would rather see the
Mhm.
text be, 10 or 25%
Yeah,
over the
yeah.
limit, and the
Right.
icon
Right.
scaled down much more
Yeah,
proportionally.
I agree with that.
Well, the fact is, this is a billboard with two strips pulled out. And, I think a pattern, a change of lettering, it's still incredibly oversized. I think,
Well, all I'm getting at is I think there's a
Yeah.
regulation, there's a guideline
Right.
for them to follow. Let's
Right.
get them there on the sign. And then if they want to do something architectural, great. If they're looking for an icon that's that big, I don't think we can endorse that.
Yeah, and I'm concerned about the precedent we set if we were to
Sure.
move forward.
Sure. So without the applicant here, I'm not sure we can get any kind of even.
Right.
Can we table it?
Well,
Or
I
alignment, so-
would suggest that you defer it, and
Defer.
Yeah.
Okay.
then
Let
we'll
staff
meet with
Okay.
the applicant.
Are you comfortable with that, Chris? Or you-
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
Any other recommendations you want to,
No,
if we're going to send it back to you guys to talk to the applicant about anything else you want to bring
no.
up? Okay.
Is that, do you want to put that in a motion to defer?
You can certainly,
Yeah,
yes,
let's-
you would
we-
be able
we
to
have
do
to-
that.
we have
What
to-
I'm thinking is, do you want to suggest a date?
Come back?
Let's
To
defer
come
it to the
back.
next
Defer to the next
meeting,
meeting.
You want
and
to do it to the
if
next
the
meeting?
applicant is ready.
Right.
Good.
Okay.
Any other comments to guide staff on this? Anything else? Okay. So the proposal is to defer until our first week of May.
May
meeting?
3rd.
May 3rd.
May 3rd meeting.
Okay. Is there a motion, please?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we defer the sign package, sign 13702-2017 until the next Planning Commission meeting of May 3rd, 2017.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So that's deferred, and Chris, maybe I'd also recommend that the applicant attend the next meeting.
I will tell them.
Work that out.
Hopefully they can.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, that takes us to a courtesy review agenda, and there's one item tonight for that, and it's AFP-7565-2017, the Public Safety Headquarters at 100 Edison Park Drive in the I-3 Industrial and Office Park Zone. This is the installation of microgrid solar panel canopies in the parking lot. That would be an amendment to the final plan, but again, it's a courtesy review. So presenting from staff is Jasmine.
Mr. Chair, before you start, I want to disclose that I work for Montgomery County government, and I wanted to make sure this is not a conflict of interest since this is a courtesy review. I'm asking for a ruling.
I understand. Well, the Ethics Commission actually issues the rulings, but
Okay.
in terms of advice for tonight,
Okay?
if you may want to, you have to make some sort of a judgment as to, are you directly involved with this, or are you aware of this? Your duties may have nothing to do with this at all. That may be relevant, and then your own judgment that you can fairly.
Well, I called earlier today to discuss this. I would feel more comfortable if I recused myself. I really would. Maybe I'm being a little overly cautious, but
Commissioner, if you feel that way, especially with,
well, maybe I can just sit there and be quiet. I mean,
no, but if you feel that way, then that would be, certainly, I think everybody would agree, but that would certainly be my recommendation, because even as a courtesy review, you want to make sure to make a fair and
right.
reasoned
And I
judgment.
want to influence it in any
Understood.
way. Okay, so I'm going to step down.
All right, Danny, thank you.
Okay.
So Jasmine Forbes is presenting from staff.
Good
Jasmine, how are you?
evening. So staff is before you tonight to discuss amendment to final site plan application AFP-7565-717. The subject property you see on the screen, known as the Montgomery County Public Safety Headquarters, is located at 100 Edison Park Drive and is zone I-3. The applicant is requesting to construct 15 solar panel canopies within the existing parking lot. So since this subject property is owned by Montgomery County, this application is being processed as a courtesy review this evening. And I'm going to have Michael Yambek from Montgomery County who's going to do the presentation.
Good evening.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for this opportunity. I'd like to maybe first of all kind of explain, if you don't know, what a microgrid system is. So, a microgrid is basically a small utility grid that can either be a standalone system not connected to the larger utility grid and operate independently, or it can be connected to the utility company and so can either operate independently or still receive power from the local utility company. And in this case, this facility will be the latter. So we will be receiving power from Pepco, and we'll also, in the event of an outage, and we will be able to be self-sufficient in operating. And that's one of the reasons why we're looking at developing a mini grid, microgrid for this facility, because it is the Public Safety Health Center, Public Safety Headquarters, which houses our fire, police, Department of Transportation, Homeland Security. And with the type of services we've been receiving from the utilities in the East Coast through storms, derechos, everything else, there's an emphasis from the federal government to be able to look at critical facilities in a community and be able to develop, again, a situation where they can be self-sustaining, self-operating in case anything goes down, so that they are continually serving the community that they are in. So again, as we looked at this, we thought this was a prime example that we could use to be able to demonstrate this microgrid application and develop, again, a very robust facility that could withstand any type of grid outage. The public safety headquarters, as I said, is the headquarters for fire safety, police, Department of Transportation. It is the largest facility that the Montgomery County has. And again, it is kind of the hub of our central operations. So we thought that, again, an operation here would be critical to the local community. Our plans for this microgrid basically consists of about 3 parts. There's a 2 megawatt solar canopy system that we're going to be putting in. There's going to be about an 800 kW combined heat and power generation system. And we're doing some upgrades to the infrastructure, adding a massive control system and a cybersecurity system for this operation. The schedule that we're under right now is we will probably have, or we are right now have about 50% design review. We're looking at 90% design review in around the June-July time. Construction will probably start in the August time frame. The solar panels we're looking to have completed by the December time frame, with the CHP being in probably the first quarter of 2018. So as you can see from the slide that we have here, so I can see it, we're looking, there are approximately 15 canopy systems, individual canopy systems that we're putting in on the facility along the backside. And they will be connected in then through the side of the facility into the major switchboard. Yeah, okay. Oops, sorry. I'll get it. Where am I up? Okay. And there. So they'll be connected through the side of the building here. I've given you a couple of renditions of what a typical canopy system will look like that we're looking to put in, so you can get kind of a visual impact as relationship to the cars, how high they're going to be, and the ability for these canopies to be able to provide shade to the emergency vehicles that we have here, the police vehicles that we have here, along with providing snow coverage for them too, so we'll be able to operate through all kinds of weather. Again, this is a cross-section of the canopy itself. We're going to be at 9 feet at the low end and about 15, 16 feet at the high end. So they'll be angled towards the south-southwest. What we're trying to do here is kind of give you a graphic representation, and actually if you look at the top is really from a line of sight what the houses in the back are going to be able to see from the canopies. So you can see that the houses here, we have the driveway or the road that comes by the houses. Then we have the playing fields, the soccer fields at about a 40-foot level. We then drop down. And so the highest canopy on this side will be at 38 feet, which is going to be 2 feet below what the level of the soccer fields are, and then they move down the grade to where the building is here. Do I keep going, or do I ask your questions? Okay, okay, we'll finish.
We stay quiet until you finish your presentation.
Oh, okay. Got it. And again, this is a secondary representation on the slope of the canopies themselves. 0 feet being down here where the driveway is for the facility. 20-foot max going across here. And so we're slightly higher than the lowest, or the highest portion of this one is going to be slightly under where the top portion is going to be, but again still under the footage of where the fields are, 2 or 3 feet underneath square footage of the fields. And then the rest of the canopies, and these are really the high canopies here. The rest of these canopies are much lower footage than the sloping than this high water mark is here. And that's pretty much the system.
So a couple things I noticed on the packet, and I don't know how close you are to having these engineered specifically, or if it's more diagrammatic, but it looks like all of these are on existing landscape islands, and so you end up then killing off whatever's in those islands across that whole field of parking now, is that right?
Correct, correct.
So what happens with those landscape islands? Do they get paved over, do they get gravel, what are they gonna?
They're gonna maintain the grass that they have on them. So we are taking out the trees. We had an arborist report, I think that was in your report.
But the grass isn't gonna get any light or anything, right? Because these canopies are, you're putting a single pole and you're cantilevering off both sides with the canopies, right?
We are, so the high end will be on the left side going down, but the canopies themselves have, I believe, about an inch and a half of space in between each of the panels. So there is gonna be rain getting down into they'll be still seeping down and still some sunlight getting into the area.
Really? I'd have your engineers look at that.
Okay.
I don't believe that. I think it's gonna be
Okay.
completely in the shade and completely dry most of the time.
Okay.
I mean, unless you go through some really, strange lengths to get some kind of an artificial condition under there.
Okay.
But it's something to look at, because then you end up with, erosion.
Right, so what I think
Aerosols.
we'll do again is that there may be some kind of ground cover that we can put in there that might be able to suffice. If not, we'll
Shade, okay.
we'll look at, correct, some kind of other environmentally friendly.
Yeah, okay, because you need to do that, I think, because otherwise you take what is a fairly mature natural landscape island and kind of kill it off, and
Sure.
then it just becomes sort of a
Okay.
desolate.
And that's a concern. I mean, it's a good point. It's a
Yeah.
concern.
The other thing is, on one of the diagrams, and it seemed to be carefully enough drawn or drafted that I could at least assume this, but when you look at the main drive aisle that runs in front of the building, back if it's relative to Darnestown Road, but on the side of your main entrance, the canopy seemed to kind of overhang the curb line a little bit, and the issue would be obviously truck clearances and things as they go by. So I don't know how closely that's been worked on or how carefully it's been engineered. If you drive the lengths of those panels and those canopies specifically, or if you're working on modular dimensions that you have to take them out to a certain length, I don't know what the constraints are, but the way it's drawn, I would be nervous that some of those corners would get clipped by, a panel truck or something.
I know that what we have looked at is, again, the width of that road and being able to have emergency vehicles, again, move through there, and that was a major concern that we did look at. So the engineers hadn't brought up anything, but I'll have them look at that
Yeah, I
again.
mean, if the low side's at 9, and in some cases the corner's overhanging the curb line, at least in plan.
Right.
On the drive-by, that means somebody could scoot by there with a 10, 12-foot truck and knock the corner. You don't want that.
No.
That'd be a bad day for all of you. Go ahead.
I have some questions regarding, I think that in your package, there was some studies done on the visibility of the vehicles going by, the houses, but I didn't think it really dealt with the amount of kids that spend time in those soccer fields and those baseball fields, literally above it. And I think when the light shines, I don't know what the reflective quality of that is. In my mind, it's a concern because those fields are highly utilized. Likewise, the majority of the panels to the north, west of it, actually face directly towards the path that it's across the street between the lakes. And I don't know if there's a map that we can use to orient ourselves. But as it goes, I believe that
This one here?
it's just out of the map.
There it is.
Yeah, but it's out of that map.
You're
It's,
talking about. Let's check this.
Okay.
yeah, I'm talking about the path that in Kentlands, basically the pathway that goes from the Kentlands mansion to Ken Oaks Way. It's outside of the north part. That is significantly above it, and those panels are angling towards it. So let's say it's a 12 noon sun, that will create a pretty glaring barrier to the people walking on that path as well.
Okay, so the path is in this
It's
picture.
up.
It's on the
looking
opposite
left-
side of the lake. If you're looking at the lake, it's what we call the dam road.
Jasmine, if you
Okay.
bring up your aerial that you had it earlier, I think it's shown on that.
Yeah. If you scroll down.
Oh, like,
No.
Scroll up.
There you go,
Yeah,
that's it.
the path,
Now go up.
Is that
to-
far?
To the left.
To the left.
To the left.
To the left?
And that road,
Like over
on the other
here?
side,
Yeah,
that's
right
it,
there.
that's the dam road. correct.
Okay.
It's a pathway. It's not a roadway.
So first of all, to address that, I think, so the canopies are angled from the left to the right.
Correct.
So the high point is gonna be on the left. So the walkway is behind the high
Okay,
point of the
gotcha.
canopies.
all right.
Okay?
South exposure.
So, and to answer your first question on the glare issue, these are all gonna be non-glare
Okay, good.
panels. So again, there should be no glare at all on that.
Awesome. You should have just stopped me.
Oh, we've learned never to try that.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding you. All right, any other,
Just a curiosity, how do you deal with the runoff coming off of these panels when it's really pouring rain and the water's coming down? It comes down, I would assume, it comes down from, as you said, from left to right at the angle. How does the runoff work on that? And is the parking lot going to be semi, what do they call that? Semi-impervious? Or is it going to be remain the same way it is right now with the macadam the way it is?
It's gonna remain the same way it is as far as the parking lot goes. Now, again, with the canopies, they are about an inch apart from each, from one solar panel to the next
Right.
solar panel. So the studies that they've done have showed that really there is no direct rain off, like a sludge that's just
Oh, I
coming
see.
down off of it. That it is gonna drip in between the cars and on in the lots. So
Okay.
you're gonna have kind of what is a normal runoff that you would normally find. I mean, not quite the same, but pretty darn close.
As far as snow goes, how does that work with the snow? I mean, does just natural melting process eventually takes care of
Yeah,
the,
it'd actually be a little faster than, because
Yeah.
we'll have less snow accumulating because of the heat that the panels, at least still maintain. Even when there's cloud cover, we have current panels right now during, in other facilities. And we had very little snow cover this year, but the snow that we did have, we had no trouble with any of the solar panels, because even though there's clouds and whatever, we still generate some electricity off of that. It's kind of amazing. I was
Yeah.
always surprised, but
Yeah.
there is some generation off it, so there is heat there.
My other question was, you're gonna remove 126 trees,
Correct.
and a lot of them are mature trees, I assume, from what I've observed being there.
They are, I would say, very mature trees. They are to the point of either dying or they're sick, so there needs to be, first of all, attention to them anyways.
Right.
I think there's only like 22 healthy trees within that, and of those 22 healthy trees, I think 12 of them are holly trees or bushes, depending on how you identify a holly tree. And so what we're looking to do is actually, because we're taking out some of the trees, it's actually kind of a safety factor to the parking lot. Because right now we're getting a lot of branches dropping on cars and people walking by. So it's a cleanup we would have to do anyways. It's just fortuitous that we're doing it at the same time.
Are you planning to do any kind of reforestation, though, around the perimeter?
We're looking at a couple of areas around the perimeter that will give a little more shading to the air, from the house views and whatever. So yes.
Okay. And as far as the current lots that are there, the soccer field and there's an old tennis court,
Right.
and just an open field, you're not planning to do anything with those at this time, at this particular time?
Again, it's a county piece of property. They've had various discussions on what they're going to do there.
Yeah.
I'm not privy to any of that, but
Okay.
we probably won't plant trees there.
Okay,
Yeah.
no, that's
Yeah.
fine. Just wanted to see if there was anything else. So you're not planning to expand the parking lots in
No,
order to get
no.
more generation? Okay. Okay.
And just for your knowledge, we did have a few discussions about stormwater management and how this would affect, and it was evaluated and saying that it would be doing just the same thing if the panels
Were
weren't
not
there,
there.
it'd be onto the sidewalk, into the parking lot, so it wasn't considered any need to do stormwater management, so.
Thanks.
any other questions? Is anyone here in the audience to comment or, I guess, testify in a more formal way? Please, yeah, come on up to the.
I think it's gonna look like a big industrial.
Well, come on up to the podium and give us your name and address for the record, please. Good
My
evening.
name is Edwin McGowan. I'm a resident of Lakelands Development, and looking at this, I think it's going to look like a big industrial park.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, I guess, seeing no one. Any comment on sort of the aesthetic of these panels and the canopy look itself?
Well, I know that Gaithersburg has a number of other sites where solar panels, canopies are situated. So again, I think, and we've put in another solar canopy in the county too. So I think we've got some good experience on how we can kind of, again, I'm going to say, make them part of the local surroundings. Again, looking at planting some additional trees, strategically placing those trees so that they block off, eyesights for people, which may be an issue. Again, it's our intent to try to, again, minimize that as much as possible. But again, we think that the benefits that these provide to, again, keeping that facility up and operating, the benefits it provides to the people who are parking there, provide, again, a significant amount of benefit as opposed to what some of the negatives might be with the project.
Okay.
So transformers, I mean, is there a necessity to put anything else on top of the roof at this time in order to generate this power? Or is it
We're not gonna put
transformers
anything-
below? Is it everything?
Everything's gonna be on the ground,
On the
or
ground.
actually inside the facility too. So
Okay.
the only thing on this project that's really different is the canopies themselves.
Okay.
All right, any other comments, questions? I guess, since it's a courtesy review, and,
Right.
formally it's not approved or not, it's just input. I think what you're hearing is that maybe a little more attention to a tree buffer, both for visual and to sort of respect the natural setting that you're disrupting in the course of doing this would be very, very appropriate, certainly from a view perspective. I do think a little more care on the impact of taking the tree islands out, what they will end up being ultimately, in a way that's not just sort of an afterthought or left behind as a wasted element within the parking lot. Despite the condition of the trees now, at one time that was a very deliberate thing, was to break up the parking and create some green space, and that's not a bad thing, that's a good thing, right? And then just in terms of layout, be absolutely certain that you've got that clearance, I think, for traffic, which I gotta believe your guys are looking at already. It just might be a drawing thing that shows it overlapping the main drive aisle, so. Any comments you want to put out there?
No.
Anything else? Jasmine, what's the way we finish the discussion?
I was gonna say, staff recommends that the planning commission, based on the exhibit submitted, the applicant's testimony, and the staff report findings and recommendation, grant AFP-7565-17 amendment to final site plan courtesy review,
Okay.
finding in compliance with section 24-170 and 24-172A of the city code.
And I think it's part of a larger issue to find alternative energy sources for facilities like this is a really good approach. And I think we have to feel our way through some of the
Yeah.
environmental and aesthetic impacts that they're going to have. And I trust you have a team that can look at that a little more
We'll-
carefully as you're
we'll-
moving into the execution of it.
But we'll address those issues, yes, sir.
Yeah, great. Anything else? All right, staff has made a recommendation for a motion. Is there a motion, please?
Mr. Chair, I move that the Planning Commission, based on the exhibits submitted, the applicant's testimony, the staff report's findings and recommendation, grant AFP 7565-2017, amendment to final site plan courtesy review, finding it in compliance with section 24-170 and 24-172A of the city code with no conditions.
Second.
Moving to the second, and all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thanks very much.
No,
Appreciate
thank
the
you very much.
presentation.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Have a good evening. Denny, you want to come back on up? That takes us to from the commission. Phil, may I start with you, please?
I don't think I have anything this evening.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I had the pleasure of attending the State of the City address, which was, I believe, last Thursday at Asbury Village. And again, it was extremely well attended. I thought the video was, again, A1 production. And kudos to the staff as well as to the mayor and the city council for a very, very good, cogent presentation of what has transpired over the last year and where the city's heading over the next year or couple of years. So it was a really good presentation. I believe it's can be found on the Gaithersburg channel. All the speeches and the video are also available. So I'd recommend that if you get a chance to view that and get a good feel for what's happening.
And I think the best part is always the installation of the junior mayor.
Absolutely. The outgoing and the incoming are just charming,
Yeah.
charming ladies.
It's a great program. All right, Danny, anything tonight?
Nothing tonight.
Good, Sally?
I just want to remind everyone that next Tuesday at 7:30, we will be having a special lecture series at the Arts Barn on behalf of the Kentlands Community Foundation and the City of Gaithersburg Planning Department. We are having panelists from the City of Frederick, Rockville, and neighborhood of Adams Morgan speak to the revitalization strategies that they utilize, both financial, marketing, and also we will be unveiling the results of a survey conducted to Main Street. So that has yielded very interesting information, and I hope that everybody can attend.
Two questions about that. Will you release the results of the questionnaire sort of on the city website or somewhere after the meeting, or?
Yes, I think that the intention is to do that, and we will likely have flyers as well that include the information, because we want to make sure that everybody knows what the general consensus is from both property owners and business owners that operate in our Main Street.
Great. And the other one is, I know some people will have scheduling conflicts. Do we have these recorded for later
I'm
viewing?
working with the city staff to organize that.
So we can reassure
That'd be
people if
good.
they can't make it that night, they might be able to see it. Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, and I just had one quick thing. I noticed that the staff, the format of the staff reports has changed a little bit this time.
Yeah.
Really good.
Nice way to put all the kind of the important stuff
Yeah.
up front, and good way to be able to scan it and look at it.
That's true.
With only a couple items, it didn't make a huge difference this time, but obviously we get more things on the agenda. That's going to be a nice way to organize the information. So thanks for looking into that. I think it'll work out well. You like it, or?
Yeah, I like it.
Okay.
Hopefully you guys like it.
Yeah, yeah.
We do. Oh, I do.
Great. All right. Anything else?
I would just add that our next planning commission meeting is May 3rd, and that's all I have.
Okay. Anything down there?
Nope, nothing.
No? Okay. Well, if there's nothing else, I'll look across one more time. Have a good evening. We're adjourned.